So this video is about some of the principles that apply on the platform for people beyond the imaginary curve. The objective truth is not up for debate. This is not a debate. This is about a discussion. Natural science has no duality. It is what it is. And there is no double truth. There's only a single truth, which is what we should all be searching for. So people should like to better understand, how we think on this platform and how we want to discuss with other people. Then they should look no further than the works of Dr. Thomas Reid. So we have here a few quotes from Thomas Reid that will hopefully explain better how the people on this platform would like to engage with others when we're talking about natural science. So, quote, "For before men can reason together, they must agree in first principles, and it is impossible to reason with a man who has no principles in common with you. Our first principle is that qualities must necessarily be in something that is figured, coloured, hard or soft, that moves or resists. It is not to these qualities, but to that which is the subject of them, that we give the name body. If any man should think fit to deny that these things are qualities, or that they require any subject, I leave him to enjoy his opinion as a man who denies first principles and is not fit to be reasoned with." So hopefully it can be seen by this quote that any inquiry into natural science must by necessity have a body attached to it, some real natural substance with which to inquire about, and that is the subject of the inquiry. The qualities of the body or the subject can be things like figured, coloured, hard or soft, but qualities require a body. And if somebody thinks that it's possible to discuss qualities of things without a body attached to it, without a subject, then these are the people who there is no point in talking to them about it. They deny nature, they deny reality, and therefore there's no real point in having a reasonable discussion with them. A second quote, just to show more where this is all coming from. "It is certain no man can conceive or believe smelling to exist of itself without a mind, or something that has the power of smelling, of which it is called a sensation, an operation, or a feeling. Yet if any man should demand a proof that such sensation cannot be without a mind or a sentient being, I confess that I can give none, and that to pretend to prove it seems to me almost as absurd as to deny it." So here again, there are certain things that we have to take as being true. They're in the nature of the thing, and they are indeed difficult to prove. But it's absurd to pretend to prove it, and it's certainly even more absurd to deny it. If there are certain principles, as I think there are, which the constitution of our nature leads us to believe, and which we are under a necessity to take for granted in the common concerns of life, without being able to give a reason for them, these are what we call the principles of common sense, and what is manifestly contrary to them is what we call absurd. So all reasoning must be from first principles, and for first principles no other reason can be given but this, that by the constitution of our nature we are under a necessity of assenting to them. So I think here it's also clear that if you don't believe in nature, if you don't believe that there's a real external world out there, then you're going to have a problem conducting yourself in the common concerns of life, in your daily life. It's not going to be possible if you think you're made of glass, or you deny that there's bricks and stones out there when you kick them. Then those go completely against common sense. It would be absurd to think that these things don't exist. And even if we can't completely prove them, we can go from all the evidence of all mankind, and we know that we under a necessity to assent to them. I give implicit belief to the information of nature by my senses for a considerable part of my life before I had learned so much logic as to be able to start a doubt concerning them. And now when I reflect upon what is past, I do not find that I have been imposed upon by this belief. I find that without it, I must have perished by 1,000 accidents. I find that without it, I should have been no wiser now than when I was born. I should not even have been able to acquire that logic which suggests these sceptical doubts with regard to my senses. Therefore, I consider this instinctive belief as one of the best gifts of nature. I thank the author of my being who bestowed it upon me before the eyes of my reason were opened, and still bestows it upon me to be my guide where reason leaves me in the dark. Again, we have all these contrahents or opponents thinking that they can deny nature, they can deny reality. These are the same people that go out and walk on the street and do the same things as we do to make sure that they can get by in their daily life. So, you know, these skeptics are generally speaking hypocrites. And I think it's fairly obvious that, you know, when we cannot reason in things, whatever, due to our own abilities or our expertise or our background, then our senses really are the things that guide us when our reason leaves us in the dark. There is a much greater similitude than is commonly imagined between the testimony of nature given by our senses and the testimony of men given by language. The credit we give to both is at first the effect of instinct only. When we grow up and begin to reason about them, the credit given to human testimony is restrained and weakened by the experience we have of deceit. But the credit given to the testimony of our senses is established and confirmed by the uniformity and constancy of the laws of nature. So again, we see here our general propensity for veracity and credulity. We want to speak the truth. We want other people to speak the truth and believe them. But that's something that during our life is definitely weakened. Everybody's had a bad experience. But when it comes to our testimony of our senses, these are never changing. They are uniform, they're constant, and they're part of nature. So they have to be the things that we use as a first principle and founded upon when we have a discussion or we inquire into natural science. Perception, whether original or acquired, implies no exercise of reason and is common to men, children, idiots, and brutes. The more obvious conclusions drawn from our perceptions by reason make what we call common understanding, by which men conduct themselves in the common affairs of life and by which they are distinguished from idiots. The more remote conclusions which are drawn from our perceptions by reason make what we commonly call science in the various parts of nature, whether in agriculture, medicine, mechanics, or in any part of natural philosophy. So again, we see here, you know, perceptions and sensations are natural language that we get from living, and we need these in the common affairs of life, and that distinguishes us from fools, from idiots, from asylum seekers. And it's also clear, I think, that reason has to build upon the senses. Without senses, reason would be nowhere, and we couldn't start in science or in any part of investigating nature. That our thoughts and sensations must have a subject which we call ourself is not therefore an opinion got by reasoning, but a natural principle. That our sensations of touch indicate something external, extended, figured, hard or soft is not a deduction of reason, but a natural principle. The belief of it and the very conception of it are equally parts of our constitution. It is absurd to think that nature allows our senses to deceive us and gives us other faculties to detect the cheat. If we are deceived in it, we are deceived by him that made us, and there is no remedy. So again, here it's important to understand that our thoughts and sensations, have a subject. We are implicit in the investigation or the inquiry into nature. We are a part of it. That we have clear and distinct conceptions of extension, figure, motion, and other attributes of body, which are neither sensations nor like any sensation, is a fact of which we may be as certain as that we have sensations. And that all mankind have a fixed belief of an external material world, a belief which is neither got by reasoning nor education, and a belief which we cannot shake off, even when we seem to have strong arguments against it and no shadow of argument for it. It is likewise a fact for which we have all the evidence that the nature of the thing admits. These facts are phenomena of human nature, from which we may justly argue against any hypothesis, however generally received. But to argue from a hypothesis against facts is contrary to the rules of true philosophy. Again, here, our senses show us that there's an external world. We believe in an external world. We didn't get that by reasoning or by educating. It's part of our natural constitution. And all these facts of all mankind that have this belief of an external material world means that, we are correct to argue against any hypothesis or theory which contradicts these things. Doesn't matter how many people believe it. And it's nonsense to argue from a hypothesis against those facts that there is an external material world. And it's what we see it is and not what we're told it is. Let scholastic sophisters entangle themselves in their own cobwebs. I am resolved to take my own existence and the existence of other things upon trust, and to believe that snow is cold and honey sweet, whatever they may say to the contrary. He must either be a fool or want to make a fool out of me that would reason me out of my reason and senses. I think that's a fitting end to this little video, and I hope this gives everybody a clearer picture of inquiries into natural science and what the agreement has to be between people before they have a reasonable discussion. Thanks for listening.